Game shows do particularly well with the oldsters. Sedate Puzzle 'em Up Countdown has been running for years, and more recently Grey Power has given Noel Edmonds a new lease of life in Deal or No Deal. Not that he seems particularly grateful to the older generation.
You are a miserable man. And probably the ugliest player we've ever had.
This year saw several new game shows being dangled in front of the eyes of coffin dodgers. Amongst the more successful was ITV's Golden Balls, a game of big cash prizes and relentless ball-related euphemism.
Welcome to Golden Balls.
Now, a lot of people say Golden Balls is too complicated, but it isn't really.
After all, it's just a show hosted by the increasingly eerie Jasper Carrot, in which 12 sparkling balls containing monetary values ranging from £10 to £75,000 are combined with 4 so-called killer balls and randomly shared out amongst 4 contestants, who then place them in rows with 2 on the front facing out and 2 at the back visible only to them. And they then take turns announcing what the secret balls are worth and try to decide if the other players are telling the truth or not, and then hold a vote to eliminate one of the players, and then the balls go back in, and then they add another 2 cash balls and a killer ball, and the 15 balls are shared out again amongst the contestants, who repeat the procedure of bluffing and voting until only 2 contestants are left, at which point they go through the 11 remaining balls, choosing whether to keep or eliminate each in turn without seeing what it's worth, and throughout this bit a running total of the accumulated value is kept.
Although a killer ball will reduce the value by a factor of 10.
Until finally they're left with a cash prize, which they then have to decide whether to split or steal, i.e. if they both choose split they share it, if one chooses steal they get the whole lot, and if they both choose steal they both get nothing.
That's all it is, and what could be simpler than that?
In August, all preceding culture was rendered redundant as mankind reached its creative peak.
You just see these eyes of this gorilla, and like the camera is slowly pulling out as Phil Collins is playing. Phil Collins is playing in the background. Why is Phil Collins playing in the background? I've got to find out. It's like a mystery. When the drum's kicking, it's like. It's genius. Really like that.
A brace of cookery shows arrived in August. In fact, at times you couldn't switch on the box without being confronted by some with a whisk.
I love eating and I love cooking, but like you, I always feel I'm in a hurry, and it can be hard trying to fit everything in. But I got the answer.
Servants?
In a word, it's express.
Oh.
Express cookery turned out to consist of a bunch of ingenious kitchen shortcuts, which is handy when you're an ordinary person like Nigella, standing in a studio preparing roast boussin for a former Chancellor of the Exchequer while your multi-millionaire husband's off wiping Damien Hirst's arse with a banknote.
Delicious, darling.
Thanks, Pa.
Anyway, my favourite cookery shows of the year were Heston Blumenthal's In Search of Perfection, which often looked more like a cross between one of Dr. Gunther von Scaryhat's live Channel 4 autopsies and an episode of CSI, and Channel 5's Cooking the Books.
Welcome to Cooking the Books.
Not because of the content, but because even though it was just a bland, friendly sort of affair, host Jeremy Edwards seemed weirdly terrified throughout. Maybe because someone was perpetually screaming at him through that preposterously large earpiece.
Is that it? If you give me a spoon, actually, I'll use that to... very much. There you go, sir. Good.
In September, TV's woes continued as a judge kindly described the Jeremy Kyle show as a human form of bear baiting.
Everyone knows the Jeremy Kyle show is shit, but sometimes it's worth analysing shit to see what's wrong with the body as a whole. And for my money, the biggest, steamiest and stickiest turd Kyle curled out this year was this. It was a special edition in which victims of abuse confront a convicted paedophile. Not in an earnest attempt to comprehend what makes a sex offender tick, but just so Jeremy, and by extension his viewers, could feel better about themselves by bellowing at someone utterly reprehensible. The circus achieved nothing, but a lot of rage got vented, mainly by Jeremy.
You picked a convicted paedophile over your own flesh and blood.
And not just for a few minutes, but for a full, pointless, insight-free hour, during which Jeremy postured.
You deserve it for the rest of your life, mate.
Whipped up the audience.
With your GNVQs of how not to be a pedo.
Shouted.
You raped your 6-year-old daughter.
Pulled increasingly unhinged facial expressions. And repeatedly used the phrase, "where I come from."
Where I come from, he crossed a line.
That is pretty low, where I come from. Where I come from...
Until eventually you started thinking, you know what, I think Jeremy's getting off on this power just a little bit.
You should be monitored from now until the day you die.
Only in case you're wondering, that went out at 9:25 in the morning. What a wonderful world.
That is what you will have to deal with for the rest of your lives, and you deserve it. I am back after this break.
Hello October, in which Channel 4 started celebrating its 25th anniversary, even though this year, like all channels, it was in the shit. All the networks had a rough time of it this year, and Channel 4 bore the brunt of much of the criticism, but it's worth remembering some of the good things it did, namely some of its dramas. 3 superb one-offs dealt with men haunted by incidents from their past. Secret Life, starring Matthew McFadden as a sex offender undergoing rehabilitation. The Mark of Cain, a furious fictionalisation of abuse at a military base in Iraq. And most recently, the intensely moving Boy A, featuring an outstanding performance from Andrew Garfield as a former schoolboy killer trying to build a new anonymous life. These were flat-out brilliant programmes. Not that Channel 4 drama always got it right. Take Clapham Junction, which set out to be a thought-provoking look at gay issues, but ended up being a bit heavy-handed.
Some people might say that's shocking, but he isn't the only person to do that before heading out in public.
Eminently sensible observation, but such overkill is fine.
Talk about Terry's bulging sack.
Also in October, Noel Edmonds asked,
"Are you smarter than a 10-year-old? Are you smarter than a 10-year-old? I could sit and listen to that all fucking day.
We're up to November now, and the return of ITV's garish reenactment of Cannibal Holocaust. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here!
You know, it's worth noting that this year reality TV viewers have proved themselves to be a pretty liberal bunch.
They were appalled by racism in Celebrity Big Brother, turned off by Jim Davidson's homophobic nonsense in Hell's Kitchen. They voted for the first black winner of Big Brother, and when the King of the Jungle kissed his husband on live TV, no one batted an eyelid. Oh, and they let Pete Doherty win the X Factor. December means Christmas.
You can tell when Christmas is coming. The nights get darker, the air gets colder, and the toy commercials get more bewildering.
Meet Brian the Brain. He's robotic, chaotic, and totally neurotic. And he's way smart.
What's your password?
Chess.
Brian plays games and is loaded with features.
200 billion.
Brian actually gets to know you.
Kill it!
Don't forget football at 4:30.
Brian the Brain.
I wouldn't want that in my house just in case it plunged a probe into my spine and turned me into a battery. Speaking of progress, it's good to see Iceland continuing to push the boundaries of what's considered edible.
With a hint of sweet chili.
What next? Cheese elbows? Pork helicopters? Chicken lasagna squircles? Blockbuster ads featuring a galaxy of stars are becoming increasingly popular at Christmas. M&S have opted for a movie pastiche in which girls whore themselves in a bid to impress Antonio Banderas. Sainsbury's have given Jamie Oliver an army of tiny slaves whose hard work he doesn't even acknowledge, like a Asda continue their intensely patronising campaign in which celebs slum it with the proletariat in a bid to shift more units for the man.
Look at the rib capacity on this.
Now get back to stacking those shelves. Tesco have probably won overall by hiring the Spice Girls. Someone's singing voice has improved.
Hi, I'm looking for Christmas presents to surprise some girlfriends.
You know, Posh Spice is so bad in this, it's the first time in history a human being's been outacted by a trolley. I feel sorry for Morrison's, which looks like it had to make do with all the leftover celebrities no one else wanted. Oh, that Dermot Gavin.
You got enough in there, Alan?
Must be Christmas.
Yes, Alan. What a card.
Well, that was 2007. I'll be back in 2008. And now, to play us out in a tribute to the late Ronnie Hazelhurst, who died this year, it's Matt Berry and his band with some music. Merry Christmas.